Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is Delicia, CEO and founder of Deli Lingo Academy. And today we're going to talk about grad school admissions interview preparation. So, on today's agenda, we have mindset work for grad school admissions. We're going to talk about the interview process and how it looks a little differently for higher education versus maybe a corporate job, specifically for maybe a master's program or a PhD program, a postdoc, or anything along the lines of graduate admissions. And then we're going to figure out what questions should you be asking, what should you be thinking about, and explain a little bit about the processes of what a interview process would look like. So first, we're going to do some mindset work, a little mindset shift, because I know we got some things going on in terms of graduate admissions and maybe imposter syndrome is creeping in, and or those gremlins that are like on our shoulders are like, you can't do this, you don't have enough money, and they just won't shut up. So first, congratulations. If no one has said this to you, congratulations. And I hope you celebrated that win that you got into the program, whatever program it is, even if it's not your first choice or your second or your third, and maybe they didn't give you enough money yet. I want you to take a moment to really, really sit in that accomplishment. This is a huge win that you got into a graduate admissions program. I'm not exactly sure what the statistics are. I'll look them up and add them later. However, I'm pretty sure it's maybe like 0.5% or 5% of the population that actually goes to graduate school. So if you think of the grand scheme of life from a macro level, it's a very small percentage that decide to go to get their bachelor's degree and then their master's degree, and then let alone a PhD or a JD if you're thinking of law school. So please, if you didn't graduate yet, and you are thinking of this and this is your next step, or if you are ready for this and you got in, congratulations. Felicidades. Parabéns. I'm so proud of you. And I hope you celebrated. If you didn't celebrate, today, the day you're watching this, is the day you're going to celebrate because this is a huge win. Like, oh my God, you got into this program. All that work you put in, the recommendation letter, the personal statement, connecting with professors, networking, figuring out what program you're going to do, doing all the research. Like, this is a huge freaking win. So you better celebrate. Okay? Are you going to promise me? Can you swear? Okay. That's all I want to say. And the second part to that is you deserve to be in those programs. You belong in those programs, especially if you're first gen, hold a marginalized identity, and you live at the intersection of oppression and marginalization. We all hold marginalized identities, and at every juncture, there's power, privilege, and oppression at play, right? We're talking about Kimberly Crenshaw's work of intersectionality. We exist at the intersections of all of those identities. So if you, I want to center those narratives right now and tell you that you belong in these programs. These institutions were not created for us to be in them. So the fact that you got in and that you're gonna go, because you're gonna go, you deserve to celebrate and exist in that joy. And you also need to know that you belong in those programs. No matter what the gremlins are saying that you are not good enough, you don't have the right grades, everything you do, you belong there. So please sit in that, breathe that in, really center yourself in that, celebrate, and know that you do belong. So we have to really believe these things before we can talk about the graduate uh, admissions interview process. Because what the interview process is kind of the seal to your application. They already said, we like you, we want you here, you're in. So, what is this process? It's to really make sure that you're in it and that you want to be there. That is ultimately what an interview process looks like. It's like, we read about you, we like you on paper, like, let's see the person, let's see the living, breathing person behind this application process. That's what the interview is. So, congratulations, you belong in these programs. And it's specifically graduate admissions, right? We're taught to believe that maybe we don't belong as first gen or BIPOC or women, or if you hold an LGBTQ plus identity, if you're trans identifying folk, we're taught that we don't exist in these spaces, that we don't belong. So, what I believe is that getting into these programs is an internal reckoning that you deserve to be there. You're reclaiming space, you're reclaiming identity, you're reclaiming and telling these systems that you exist and you exist to take up space and you deserve to be there. So that's all at play in the interview process, in applying for scholarships and fellowships, and that you deserve to receive that money and that program and that degree. This is part of reparations. This is part of reclaiming what has been stolen from indigenous folks, from Black folk in the United States. This is part of reparations and reclaiming. So if you hold any of those identities, keep that in mind when you're in an interview process or when you're applying to graduate school. The grants, the fellowships, the scholarships, that is yours for the taking. So we belong, and that's on period. Any Gen Zers, that's on period. So I really wanted you to preface this conversation and this tips and tricks of grad admissions interviews. So where are we going to start, my friends? Research. We got to start research. If you're applying to grad school and you're applying to a program, PhD, master's, you know we're going to do research. So the interview process for grad admissions goes back to researching the higher education institution that you applied to, the people in the departments that you're going to meet in the interview process. What is the history of the institution? What's the history of the department that you're looking to get a master's and a PhD in? So part of this preliminary work that you're going to do is higher education research, what's going on and trending in higher ed. You're going to look at the department heads. Who is in charge right now? Who are the dean of students? Who is the dean of the department? Who are the professors? What research do the professors specialize in? And then the students. What are the students up to? What's going on at the undergraduate level? Because as a graduate student, you are going to be tasked to be an what's the word? Intermitente, interperson, or not a mediator, a liaison. Let's use a fancy word, a liaison between undergrad and administrative people. You may not know this, but that's how the internal workings of higher ed works. If you don't know this about me, I worked in higher ed before I became a career coach and worked as a CEO of Delhi Legal Academy. I did graduate admissions hiring. I worked behind the scenes of student development in the higher ed administrative perspective. So this is where this information is coming from, right? So you as a graduate student might be a TA. You might, if you have a graduate assistantship, you're going to be working in these departments and doing administrative tasks, but also programming. You're going to be doing a lot of programming for these departments. So you're going to be in touch with students, undergraduate students. So it's important to know what the pulse of the campus is, what's going on. I know it's a unique situation because we're in a panorama right now, but still, there's still a pulse to the campus and institution, even if it's online. So make sure you do that research. So you have that information for your specific interview process. So I like to categorize interview questions in 3 buckets that you can ask the interviewer or the committee. Another thing to keep in mind with interview processes in higher education is it's going to be a whole day event. You might be meeting with students, with faculty, with administrators, with deans. You might get a tour of the campus if they're open right now, right? Panorama. If it's online, you're still going to probably have a full day Zoom interview process with the different peoples in a committee kind of sense. So keep in mind all the different individuals you're talking to. If you can get a list of those people beforehand, that would be amazing. If you can get any information. And if they don't give it to you, you can ask. You have every right to ask. Send them an email and say, hey, I would like to know who I'm interviewing with, who am I connecting with, what department heads, and even say, I want to meet this professor, I want to meet this person. Because keep in mind, as part of the interview process, you are also interviewing the institution, my friends. You are also interviewing the higher education institution. This is a two-way street. They don't hold all the power. You as an interviewee has power. You can ask the questions. You can negotiate and figure out what it is you need to be the best candidate for this role as a PhD student, as a master's student, whatever program you're doing or applying for. So keep that in mind. You hold power in this situation. It's a two-way street. They don't hold all the power, even though it might feel like that because they're the ones interviewing you. And we know how power, oppression, and privilege work in institutions of higher learning. But I want you to understand that you do have power in this situation. So the three buckets: general funding, research and network, and then teaching assistantship. Questions can be a part of all these three different sections, and we'll talk about them. So general funding. General funding means asking them, what do graduate assistantships responsibilities? What does that look like? Are you going to have a role as a programming person, as an administrative assistant? Are you going to have roles as a social media person? Because sometimes in graduate schools, graduate school programs, they put the graduate assistant to do social media management, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, the website development of these departments. So it's important to ask, what are those responsibilities going to look like if that's part of your package or your application? Are there health, dental, and childcare benefits available? If you have a family, if you have children, these are great questions to figure out. If you're a graduate student that's no longer on your parents' health insurance, this is an important question to figure out, what does health insurance look like during your time as a graduate student, as a master's, and at the PhD level? Is there summer funding to continue living on campus or working on campus or doing your research? What does that look like? Does funding only exist in the fall and the summer and the spring, or is there winter, summer funding as available as well? And then what resources are available to graduate students? What is available to you as a student to engage with? Is there a graduate student department? Are you eligible for the gym on campus? Are you eligible for the library, for printing services? What is available to students at the graduate level? These are important questions to ask because we're going to do printing. We're going to maybe want to go to the gym once the panorama is over. And living on campus, what does that look like? So these are great questions to ask as it relates to general funding. And then research and network. This is important as you build your career as a professor or as a researcher, or if you want to use your degree to go into a think tank after graduation. What conference opportunities, virtual or in person, does this department participate in? You can ask them directly. What does it look like for someone at a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year program? How do they participate? How do they apply? Are they available for us? What does the funding look like to go to these conferences or virtual conferences? Is there a travel stipend? Is there funding for conferences? Are there graduate student activities to network and job fairs? Is it directly related to graduate students? What is available to you as a graduate student? You're able to ask that because it's important for your career as you begin to network post graduation. The networks that you connect with on campus as an graduate student is going to really determine the success and trajectory of your experiences post graduation. And then, do we have access to the Career Development Center? Do you, as a graduate student, have access to career counselors, to academic advisors, to financial aid officers? Are you given a financial aid officer? These are all questions to ask because it's really determinant per institution how they set it up. So if an institution has a really robust graduate support system and staff, that means that they really value their graduate students. If they don't, then that's maybe a pink or red flag to figure out where do they actually support graduate students and do they put their money where their mouth is. So this is very important to keep in mind. And how they treat you in the interview process is going to be indicative of the campus culture and the institution culture. So keep that in mind as well. Teaching assistantship. This is a third bucket. As a TA or a teaching assistantship, what is the course curriculum liberty? If you're a TA, do you write curriculum? Do you get to write a syllabus? Do you get to write your own course? And what does that look like? Or do you have to just regurgitate or reproduce what's already been done? Is there TA training, teaching assistantship training? What does that look like? And then do we as TAs only support undergrad students or graduate student classes, right? Depends on the institution, depends on the department. Ask these questions. And specifically for maybe a more sciencey based program, are you going to be able to do research on your own, or do you have to have a mentor? Do you have to be under someone? Can you develop your own research within the graduate admissions, graduate experience? These are all questions asked specifically tailored to your needs and your research needs. This is a tips and tricks for general questions. You're going to have to figure out what is specific to your program and to your department and to your degree and what you're looking for. So I hope this was supported and helpful. Remember to celebrate your win for getting in. Remember to recognize that you belong in these institutions. And number three, with these questions, I hope you feel more empowered to understand that you hold power in these interview processes, and make sure that you ask the questions that you need. Ask the questions, send the email, be proactive about it, because you hold power in this situation. You are also interviewing the institution. They are not the only ones interviewing you. You are also interviewing them, figuring out if it's a good fit and that you can be a culture add, not necessarily fit into the institution and assimilate, but can you be a culture add? Can you be a new paradigm shift? Can you bring something unique and special? Those are the things that you have to look for. So I hope that was helpful. I created a graduate school organizer. If you're watching this and you're thinking about grad school and want to get a kickstart, check this out. I also created a scholarship list for you. All the information is going to be linked below. Make sure you check it out. And I've also created a graduate school interview workbook and questions that kind of matches what we talked about today. And you can also print it and take it with you on the interview, so you have some support with you from your hypea or your fellowship fairy godmother, as one of my students said about graduate school. So I really want you to succeed. I'm so excited for you. I'm celebrating you. I'm congratulating you. And if no one said I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you today. And take this workbook with you as a support with you, that you know that I'm there hyping you up, cheering you on. And all the information is linked below. And of course, let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you, figure out where you got in. Um, Let me know on the socials, on the Instagrams, on the YouTubes, on the TikToks, on the Facebook group. I have a free Facebook group for grad students, undergrad, for career people, figuring out what's next in life so we can hype each other up. I'm on LinkedIn. Let me know what's going on with you. I want to know, where did you get in? How much money did they give you? Can you negotiate for more? And can you ask for more? And the interview process, I want to know. Let me know. I'm here for you. Good luck. You got this. You can rock that interview.